I just wanted to go on this little baby rant about Rachel Zegler. She's the young woman that was cast as Snow White, not because she can't keep her mouth shut. I'm totally fine with with the celebrities telling me what their politics are, who they're voting for, et cetera, We've become accustomed to that. But because she has this underlying anger and hatred in her that always has to take it like one step too far.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role.
All right, let's really stretch this narrative to its full potential, amplifying the drama and delving into the intricate layers of this Disney debacle. We're not just telling a story anymore. We're dissecting a corporate autopsy, examining every organ failure that led to this spectacular collapse. This isn't just about a movie failing. It's about a brand teetering, an empire questioning its own foundations. Forget whispers in boardrooms, imagine full-blown shouting matches, careers hanging by a thread, and the ghost of Walt Disney himself probably spinning in his cryogenic chamber. This isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a 5-alarm fire in the Magic Kingdom. How did this happen? Let's dig deeper, section by section, and expose the raw nerves of this Hollywood meltdown. From the very inception, the live-action Snow White project was draped in an almost hubristic optimism. Disney, riding high on the perceived successes of previous remakes, approached this venture not as a creative risk, but as a guaranteed slam dunk. Executives, fueled by spreadsheets projecting astronomical returns and the intoxicating aroma of nostalgia, genuinely believed they held the Midas touch. Timeless story, modern spin, guaranteed gold. That was likely the mantra echoing through Burbank. They envisioned not just a film, but a cultural event, a multi-generational touchstone that would reaffirm Disney's dominance in the family entertainment sphere. Rachel Zegler's casting was initially presented as a stroke of genius, a bold move towards inclusivity, a signal that Disney was evolving for a new era. The press releases were glowing, the marketing materials shimmering, promising a visual feast and a narrative that would resonate with contemporary audiences while honoring the spirit of the original. Yet, beneath the polished surface of corporate confidence, hairline fractures were already forming. Early production reports hinted at creative disagreements, whispers of a director and star with diverging visions for the film. The carefully curated narrative of harmonious collaboration began to fray at the edges. Production delays, initially explained away as standard logistical hurdles, stretched on, fueling speculation that deeper issues were at play. And then there was the elephant in the room, Rachel Zegler's increasingly unfiltered public persona. What began as perceived authenticity started morphing into something unpredictable, a loose cannon in a meticulously planned corporate strategy. Even before cameras truly rolled, a sense of unease permeated the project, a feeling that this fairy tale, despite all the resources and hype, was precariously balanced on a fault line, waiting for the slightest tremor to send it crashing down. The irony, of course, was that the very elements intended to make this Snow White modern and relevant were the seeds of its ultimate destruction. Rachel Zegler's journey from celebrated casting choice to public pariah was a study in the volatile nature of modern celebrity and the unforgiving judgment of the internet age. Initially, her casting was hailed as a victory for representation, a progressive step forward for a studio often criticized for its homogenous portrayals. But the honeymoon period was brutally short-lived. As production progressed and snippets of information, both official and leaked, began to surface, the narrative around Zegler shifted dramatically. Critics, while often acknowledging the film's visual spectacle and technical polish, delivered a collective shrug toward the substance, often pinpointing Zegler's performance as tonally jarring, lacking the vulnerability and inherent sweetness associated with Snow White. But it was the audience, the vast, amorphous entity of Disney fandom, that truly turned the tide against her. Online platforms became battlegrounds, flooded with vitriolic comments, petitions demanding recasting, even after the film was completed, and accusations of Disney pandering and sacrificing artistic integrity for the sake of political correctness. fans, fueled by nostalgia and a deep-seated protectiveness of the original animated classic, felt not just disappointed, but actively betrayed. They dissected every interview, every social media post, every fleeting gesture from Zegler, searching for evidence to confirm their growing suspicion that she fundamentally misunderstood or even disdained the character she was portraying. The online discourse devolved into a toxic swamp of negativity, with Zegler becoming the focal point of broader anxieties about cultural change and the perceived erosion of traditional values within beloved franchises. Examples, though perhaps exaggerated in the echo chambers of social media, abounded. Critiques of her singing voice, unfairly compared to Adriana Caselotti's iconic original. Her independent, Snow White, clashed with the studio's desire to retain elements of the original's fairy tale charm. Webb, perhaps caught in the middle, struggled to reconcile these competing visions, resulting in a film that felt tonally disjointed, a Frankensteinian creation stitched together from incompatible parts. The script itself reportedly underwent numerous rewrites, reflecting the ongoing power struggles and the desperate attempts to appease conflicting agendas. The modernization efforts, intended to inject contemporary relevance, manifested in ways that felt forced and inorganic, alienating traditional fans without fully satisfying those seeking genuine innovation. The humor, reportedly more self-aware and ironic than the original's innocent whimsy, landed flat for many. The attempts at female empowerment, while laudable in theory, were perceived by some as heavy-handed and anachronistic within the fairy tale context. Even the visual design, while technically impressive, lacked the warmth and hand-drawn charm of the animated classic, contributing to a sense of coldness and detachment. The set, once envisioned as a magical realm, reportedly became a battleground of creative egos and corporate anxieties, a place where the fairy tale dream dissolved into the harsh reality of Hollywood compromise and miscommunication. The PR disaster surrounding Snow White wasn't a singular event. It was a cascading series of missteps culminating in the View debacle, which served as the ultimate public faceplant. Disney's initial PR strategy, focused on emphasizing the film's modernity and inclusivity, shaking an empire, backfired spectacularly, alienating the very fan base they were hoping to court. The marketing materials, instead of generating excitement, amplified fan anxieties, showcasing a Snow White that felt unrecognizable and, to many, undesirable. The studio's attempts to control the narrative through carefully curated interviews and press releases were consistently undermined by Rachel Zegler's unscripted pronouncements, which often contradicted the carefully crafted messaging. The View appearance, intended as a Hail Mary pass to humanize Zegler and salvage public opinion, instead became the moment of complete and utter PR collapse. Imagine the frantic preparations, the hours spent rehearsing talking points, the desperate hope that a sympathetic daytime audience could turn the tide, and then the live segment implodes. Zegler veers off script not subtly, but dramatically, launching into a politically charged monologue that alienates a significant portion of the viewing audience and confirms the worst suspicions about her in the film. The on-set confrontation, the abrupt cut to commercial, the ensuing social media frenzy. It was a public relations nightmare unfolding in real time, a spectacle of corporate control completely unraveling. The View debacle wasn't just a bad interview, it was a symbol of Disney's utter inability to manage the narrative, to control its star, or to salvage a project that had spiraled completely out of control. It was the moment when any remaining hope of box office success evaporated, replaced by the cold, hard reality of a public relations catastrophe of epic proportions. The box office numbers were not just disappointing, they were a brutal indictment. Snow White didn't just underperform, it cratered, becoming a financial albatross around Disney's neck, a scarlet letter branding the studio with the shame of a monumental misjudgment. The red ink spilled across balance sheets wasn't just about lost revenue, it represented a deeper erosion of brand trust, a questioning of Disney's creative compass, and a chilling reminder of the fickle nature of audience loyalty. The term box office poison, once a whispered industry curse, was now openly associated with Rachel Zegler's name, a harsh and perhaps unfair label, but one that reflected the prevailing narrative of a star whose public persona had actively damaged a major studio project. Inside Disney, the post-mortem was brutal. The blame game reached fever pitch, with each department pointing fingers at the others, desperate to deflect responsibility for the colossal failure. Careers were threatened, reputations tarnished, and the once unquestioned authority of Disney's leadership began to waver. The pressure on Bob Iger, already facing scrutiny for other corporate decisions, intensified, culminating in his eventual departure. A euphemism, perhaps, for a forced exit precipitated by the Snow White disaster and its wider implications for Disney's future. The financial losses were significant, but the reputational damage was potentially even more profound. The Snow White debacle became a case study in Hollywood hubris, a cautionary tale about the dangers of misjudging audience sentiment, of prioritizing agendas over artistry,